Yep, you read that title correctly. I'm now recording this intro after I shot my video, so now I'm aware of how much money I could have potentially made with my first house slash investment, but I didn't. So please use my pain as education for you. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how the decisions I made led to the potential loss of this amount of money I could have made, and 3 tips I can give you so you don't make that same mistake I did. So yeah, let's get to it. The year was 2014, and your boy was only a realtor for about 1 or 2 years. To be honest with you, I wasn't really a great realtor. My wife had a job at the time and fully supported me, and I would literally drive her to her job, come back home, play video games, and then go pick her up from work and pretend I worked a fool's day. I know I was so bad. I'm sorry. We had been in an apartment on our own for the past 1 or 2 years, and it was time for us to move on. Even though I was a real estate agent, believe it or not, I still was very scared about buying, and I told my wife, let's buy a condo, let's buy a townhouse. Thoughts you probably had as a scared first-time home buyer, but of course my wife saw a bigger picture of things, and she pushed us to home ownership. We found this beautiful little house in the Maryville area, which if you're in Phoenix, you know that area pretty well, or you don't know that area because you drive right by it. This was perfect for us because my in-laws lived around the corner. We bought it for about $80,000 with a down payment assistance program. This was 2014, remember? So our payment was maybe like $600, $500, and we moved in. The house was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. It didn't have an air conditioning unit. The person that owned it before actually never replaced it. They just had a really big window unit in the kitchen that cooled the house, and each room had like a little AC unit. We bought the house. We really didn't flip it or anything. We just kind of lived in it. We had our first baby there. I say we, but really, my wife did all the work. I was just kind of there. Our life changed dramatically in this house. In this house, my wife and I decided to, have her stay at home while I decided to work full time. And then, of course, as a realtor, I noticed I was trash. So I actually joined a team and started producing at a higher level and being taught the right way of doing things. So my life was changing rapidly. And when we had our baby, one of the things we always were worried about was, hey, well, there's no AC unit. And, we kept coming up with excuses. We want to move in a different area. Well, 2 years later, we decided to sell that house, move to another newer part of town, and let this investment go. Without showing you too many details, this was the house. That was my green car. My clients famously called it the booger. It was a little nice, cute house, had a nice bedroom. The cabinets were still the original cabinets. We actually, you see this whitewashed fireplace here. We actually did that to sell the house. We wish we would have done it when we moved in. What happens a lot of times is when you decide to sell is when you decide to make everything look nice. And unfortunately for us, that was the case. So the master bedroom, bathroom, we turned one of the bedrooms into like a little office. This was my son's room and our backyard, which we loved and had a lot of great memories back there. So we had bought this house for, like I told you, for about $80,000, and we owed maybe about $75, $76 when we were ready to sell it. What ended up happening is we ended up selling it for $118,000 2 years later. If we do some quick math, I can show you here with you how much we made. So in this case, I don't pay myself a commission because I'm help representing myself, but we still pay the buyer's agent. So in this case, what did I pay them? I paid them 3%, and then usually there's about 1% of title fee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this gross number, or the big number at the top, and I'm going to multiply it by 0.96. Why are you going to multiply by 0.96? Well, basically I'm taking out 4% away, 3% of commission, 1% for title fees. So this is what's left after my title fees and commission I paid out. Make sense? After that, I'm going to subtract my what I owed, which I think what I told you was like $75,000. And we made out pretty good. I think we actually ended up using this money to go pay our down payment for our next house, which I believe, I want to remember if it was $12,000, and plus we paid our own closing costs. So probably closer to $15,000, I believe. So then we kept about $20K, and for us, that's the most money we've ever seen in my life. So in the big picture, this wasn't a bad decision. I mean, it was really helpful for us to get the money from a previous asset we had to use for a down payment for the next house. And not only that, but I personally made a lot of bad decisions in my youth, and I had a lot of credit cards. I had lines of credit. That money that you saw earlier, actually maybe $5,000 or $6,000 of it went to pay off our debt. So by the time we moved to our second house, we were completely debt free. Like I said earlier, I don't regret any decision I made because it led us to where we are now. And it was a great decision at the time. We loved our next house. We lived there for a while. We were debt free, even though the money ran out pretty quickly after furnishing the house and whatnot. It was very helpful to have that safety net for a while. Now let's consider this. What if there was a situation where I would have figured out a way to keep the house? And if I would have figured out a way to keep the house, how much would it have been worth right now? Well, I think you know the number already because you saw the title of the video, but let's figure out how I came up with that number. First and foremost, I owed about $600 on the house. I believe I could have maybe rented it for about, I'd say $900 at the most. Now, rented it for about $900, I would have made about $300 profit. Now, you multiply that by a year, that's $3,600, which, it's not bad. However, remember I said earlier that we didn't have an air conditioning unit. Now, I wouldn't have been able to rent that place out because it didn't have an AC unit. So I would have probably had to invest maybe $4,000 to $5,000 initially to have it be rentable. So really, I'm still in the negative the first year. So it would probably take I would probably have to raise my rent after that to kind of make up the difference. So God forbid another repair were to come up, like let's say their water heater broke or something happened along those lines. Well, then that would have eaten more into my investment, unfortunately. So that would have been tougher. So I'm not saying it would have been peaches and cream. It would have still been difficult, but let's just say I would have figured out a way to come up with the money for an air conditioning unit. And I would figure out a way to put the down payment for the next house and all these factors, right? And maybe I didn't make the life decisions I made earlier where we needed to pay off debt, et cetera, et cetera. Let's figure out how much this house would be worth now. Here's a beautiful MLS showing all the properties for sale in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus in on the specific neighborhood that this house was based out of. Now here, I made it a little bigger so you guys can see it. So I'm gonna look at just what's sold in the last 30 days. I haven't seen this number before. You're seeing the number on the title and thumbnail because I made that thumbnail after the fact. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing how much money it would be worth right now. The house was only 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and we're going to cap it at 1 bathroom. So I don't want to see any 2 bathrooms because right now it's 1 plus, not necessarily just 1. And it was only 3 bedrooms, so we're going to cap it at that. So looks like there hasn't been any sales in this area. Let's go 60 days instead of 30 days. Oh, this is our house right here. 210,000.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Oh man, that hurts. Yeah, our house was in probably the same condition as this one. It was on the market for a while, but eventually sold. 210. They paid 5,000 of concessions, so they netted about 205. So let's just say 200,000. All right, I'm not enjoying this video anymore. So if I would have sold it for 200,000, so first and foremost, it would have been how many years? So it would have been 2014. So it would have been 6 years since I've had it. No, yeah. So let's do a quick amortization schedule to see what I would have owed on it. This is tough. Okay, so it would have been year 8, year 6. Yeah, it would have been year 6. So let's say 2026. I would have probably been owing $67,000. So if I would have sold it for 200,000, I multiply by pay 3% of commission to the buyer's agent, 1% of title fees, so it would have been about 0.96, and then we subtract it with the $67,000. That freaking sucks. Okay, it would have made about $125,000 in this market, but I mean, okay. I need to take a break. Okay, I'm back, and I actually thought that it wouldn't have been pure profit, actually. I think I would have had to pay some capital gains because the way capital gains works is you have to basically pay capital gains on the amount of percentage of years that you've had it as an investment. So in this case, I bought it in 2014. If I would have sold it in 2020, I would have had it for 6 years. 2 years of those were occupant, 4 years of those were investment. So basically 2/3 of it would have been capital gains. So let's say I would have made about $95,000 in profit. And yeah. So it's money I could have had, but I don't. Even with this number staring at me at my face, with the life decisions I had made at that point, I believe we still made the best decision for us and our family. We needed to get rid of all that debt. I would have had to find a way to get a down payment, which we didn't have at the time. I would have had to find a way to probably finance a new air conditioning, which I probably could have at the time, but it would have put us even more in debt. So we would have found a way to save up the down payment, and then we're still going to be massively in debt. So we would have bought another house. Maybe it wouldn't have been as nice, and we would have been in debt. And we probably would have to find some way to crunch down and pay off that debt slowly but surely. And then, God forbid, something happened with the house where we needed to repair it. As landlords, we have to go and repair it. To turn this into an educational video, basically, whenever you have your first house, it's an investment. It's definitely an investment. And whether you decide to sell it like I did or you decide to essentially rent it out, you need to make sure that you're prepared to make the right decisions. My first tip for you guys, had I been more financially stable, had some actual decent savings in the bank, it would have given me the liberty to make a decision like this, where I'd say, you know what, let's keep this as an investment. But because I didn't make the right decisions, all those years where I slacked off, or I could have been working, I could have figured out a way to do things, I could have saved more money, I didn't, and now I had to use this investment to basically play catch up to get out of debt and kickstart my life. And I'm at this point now, so want to make sure that you're making the best financial decisions early on. That way, when it comes time to make the heavy investments like that, you're able to. The second thing I really wish I would have done before is I wish my wife and I would have pushed us to really remodel it or make it nicer from the get-go. We made it really nice at the very end, painted it, made it whitewash the brick. But if we would have done that from the originally, we would have been a lot happier there. And not only that, but we would have been able to use some of those funds that we used to essentially make it look pretty towards maybe making it look, maybe investing in an AC or doing something like that, so we were able to rent it out and move on to the next one. And lastly, in hindsight now, clearly, it's looking at me right in the face. I could have made more money, but there is absolutely no way of knowing that I would have known the market would have been the way it was now. So if you're gonna make an investment like this, like a rental investment, like I kind of could have, you want to make sure that you're doing it not necessarily because you're anticipating the market to continue to rise. You want to make sure you're doing it for the long run. Now, clearly, if the market does rise like it has been, you can use the opportunity to offload and get some of that cash back. But if you're going to do this thinking the market's going to be continuing to do great, don't do it for that reason. You need to make sure you're in this for the long haul. If the market would have gone up or down, you're still going to have this as a rental. You're not planning on just selling it down the road unless the time is right. So make sure that you're not just looking at this video and be like, you know what, I'm going to do that because I want to make $125,000 down the road. No, it's not that easy. You want to make sure you're doing this for the long things. I hope my pain gave you some pleasure today and that you are able to learn from the mistakes I have so you can make better decisions. I will say though, if you guys are interested about what's going on with the housing market, a few weeks ago I noticed that there was like a very interesting thing happening with the housing market in general. So here's the video if you want to watch that. It really shows you the kind of the data that I'm looking at, to kind of keep up to things. And I will be updating that video soon. So make sure to watch it. That way you're up to date when I do have the new video. That way you can, reference that. So thank you guys so much.